This portion of the news brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
With the opening of the Bahamar Resort just days away, a small fire broke out on one of the balconies at the Grand Hyatt.
Resort officials confirmed that the small fire was due to sparks from welding that was taking place on the outside of the building. Officials also pointed out that there was no damage to the balcony or the interior of the building. VP of Operations Robert Sandy Sands.
We can confirm that there was a minor construction-related fire isolated to one external balcony at the Grand Hyatt. It was handled promptly by our internal team with the assistance of the Royal Bahamas Police and Fire Services officers who were on site at the time. There was no significant damage to the balcony, and we want to thank all teams for the quick response.
It's a creamy, cheesy snack that has been a favorite for kids and some adults. The Kraft Food Group issued a voluntary recall for select food dates for the macaroni and cheese box dinners commonly known to us as Kraft Dinner. The recall was issued due to the possibility of metal pieces being found in the food. Those recalled are the original cheese flavor with the best used by when dates, September 18th through October 11, 2015. The packaging would also have the code C2 below the dates.
Now, Assistant Director at the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources, Gregory Ramming, says the local distributor, the Dalbinas Agency, has been notified and has already begun the process of informing its customers to pull the products from food store shelves. Now, if you find that you are in possession of such packaging, you're asked to return the box dinner to the store where you got it from or simply get rid of the product.
More social services recipients have the department's new Visa debit card as officials modernize the food assistance program. Our Kelsey Johnson was at Faith United Auditorium as scores received the card today.
Thousands turned out to collect their reloadable prepaid card, which is the latest payment method for those who receive food assistance from social services. The government launched the assistance program in November, and Minister of Social Services, the Honorable Melanie Griffin, says this is a significant and sweeping change for that department.
It is a big day in what has been a very exciting time for persons who receive food assistance through social services, because we are really revolutionizing the way we deliver our food assistance, which has before now been done by a food coupon. The persons are receiving their cards between today and tomorrow, and by Friday they will be able to use the cards, and we're talking about 1,078 persons in the Robinson Road area alone. This will bring to a total of 2,600 persons, 642 persons to be exact, who will be on the card by the end of March.
Ethel Clare, a 94-year-old resident of Montel Heights, was the first person to receive her prepaid card at Robinson Road. Her granddaughter, Charmaine Molly, says this initiative is a big help, not only for her grandmother, but for her as well.
Getting up early in the morning from 5 o'clock to be there to get the food coupon, catching that draft, it was not nice, but now that the card is out, it's more better, it's more easier. Standing out there, people seeing you, looking at you funny because you getting food assistance from the government was really not nice. And my grandmother being 94, she can't move around for herself. I do all her transactions, so imagine me going with a 94-year-old woman to the food store or by social service, we'll never get served.
I feel very, very wonderful and good and happy.
There are strict guidelines and rules for persons who will be acting on behalf of others.
If somebody is unable to collect their food coupon, they can assign an agent who would represent them, and they would purchase things on their behalf. They would come into the center and identify, or they can speak with the social worker to identify an agent, and we would do the necessary process in getting their information for the card to be placed in their name, and they would be acting on the client's behalf.
The government partners with the Bank of the Bahamas on this initiative. Kelsey Johnson, ZNS Network News.
Kelsey, thanks a lot. Civil aviation officials tonight are hitting back at air traffic controllers who they claim have been discriminated against because they have not been paid for the holidays. In a release issued today, civil aviation officials say that is not the case. They say union officials are aware that payments are being processed in keeping with an agreement made with them in December of last year, and those payments will be made in short order. Additionally, civil aviation officials say those who worked on holidays were granted an additional day's leave along with a day's pay, which in their words, in fact, amounted to 3 days in total for the 1 day worked. It was also pointed out that members of the union have received substantial retroactive payments for shift premium and training allowances, and a further installment of retroactive payments is being reviewed as we speak. It should also be noted that those union members received lump sum payments ranging from $4,000 to $8,500 as a result of an addition to an old agreement. Civil aviation officials say they are operating in good faith, and they call on the union to exercise greater discretion in its public pronouncements.
Macau Member of Parliament, the Honourable V. Alfred Gray, today responding to a claim that he confessed to giving legal advice to Mayaguana Island Administrator Zephaniah Newbold to grant bail to a resident who was convicted and sentenced for an offence. Yesterday, F&M leader Dr. Hubert Minnis asked that the minister resign or be fired, as it was in breach of the Constitution. Minister Gray, however, categorically denied the allegation today that he sought to influence or pervert the course of justice in a matter before the courts.
Any suggestion that I did so is absolutely preposterous and completely false. However, as the matter in question is still before the courts, I am constrained from making any further statements at this time.
Newly appointed F&M Senator Tanisha Rule made her first appearance in the upper chamber of the Senate today, and she was applauded for her efforts by opposition leader in the Senate, the Honorable Carl Bethel, and Minister of State for National Security, the Honorable Keith Bell. Rule replaces Heather Hunt, who resigned from the Senate earlier this year at the request of the opposition leader, Dr. Hubert Minnis. Rule said that Hunt passed the baton, and she hopes to become and continue to be a beacon of light and a voice of action in her capacity as senator.
This portion of the news was brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
This is your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm Jimenita Swain. The impact of value-added tax implemented this January shows a slight increase as it relates to inflation. Officials from the Department of Statistics revealed that on an annual basis, the Consumer Price Index showed a 2.2% increase year over year. Additionally, officials said large increases were seen in health, which experienced an 11.8% increase, and recreation and culture, which saw an 8.9% increase. Items that contributed to health increase were outpatient services, which included services provided by physicians, dentists, and laboratories. In other business news, Kalena Holdings Bahamas generated a 6% year-over-year increase in net income. The jump is attributed to equity shareholders and a $27.9 million in growth in the company's asset base during the 2014 financial year. The BISX-listed company net income for equity shareholders totaled $14.5 million compared to $13.7 million in 2013. Total revenues increased by 4.4% to $170 million compared to $162.9 million for 2013. Company Chairman Terry Hill said last year the management team, sales forces, and employees continued to be committed to achieving the company's goals as a market leader. And in international business news, the dollar fell again today, its steepest weekly drop in 3.5 years. This after the Federal Reserve said last week that a rate hike is likely to come later rather than sooner. Reuters is reporting that this is helping to drive up oil prices and U.S. stocks. That was your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm Jimenita Swain.
A young man has defied the odds and used his skill, determination, and intellectual boldness to thrust himself to the #1 spot to become the nation's best. I'm going to try it again. Speller.
Good speller. Clint Watson spoke to the new champion about his big win.
Inheritance. 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 There is our winner.
And just like that, St. Anne's 8th grader and the only male of 20 contestants, Charles Hamilton Jr., emerged as the 18th annual Bahamas National Spelling Bee champion. An elated Hamilton remained steadfast and confident, overcoming his speech impediment to become the nation's top speller.
To know that I came out victorious, all my hours of hard work and going to my coach's house on Saturdays, 4 hours sometime, to just know that all that paid off, along with prayer, it all paid off.
Young Hamilton thought he would have been eliminated at least once.
I sat there before every word. I couldn't go 5 seconds without saying a prayer, and then the Holy Spirit told me, say, don't worry, I have you. And so when I just went, I was confident, and I knew within myself that whatever I did, and all of my time would have been well spent.
Hamilton, the only male going into the competition, told our news team that he wanted to win to represent the males in this country. And although he was alone in his quest, he was not about to back down, become easily intimidated, and just let the female power dominate.
I'm not going to lie, I was at first, because it was quite an overwhelming feeling being with all the girls and knowing that everyone would probably be on their side, and you know, girl power, and I know, and girls run the world. I was pretty intimidated at first, but then I sat down and me and my father had a talk, and then I realized that it was not who outnumbered the other, but whose hard work will pay off, and who actually will come out victorious in the competition.
12-year-old Hamilton will represent the Bahamas at the Scripps National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. later this year. The second-place winner, Jasmine Adamson, a 6th grader of Stephen Dillett Primary School, and third-place finisher and last year's winner, Prachi Kotapuram of Queens College, will also travel to observe the competition. Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
Girls don't run the world, clearly.
Job well done.
Definitely. Congratulations and good luck when you head up there to Scripps.
Officer in charge of the Eleuthera Division, Superintendent Christopher Wright, recently warned the business community in Eleuthera about having current and valid documentation to operate their businesses. Superintendent Wright said those in breach of the Business Licenses Act must visit the Department of Inland Revenue, which is responsible for business licenses, to bring themselves current. He was resolute, saying effective immediately, officers will go into an aggressive approach, inspecting various business places to see if their licenses are valid. He said people found in breach will be shut down. He also said licenses should be displayed at all times for inspection when requested.